Sidney Poitier's 1974 comedy hides a pile of secrets almost nobody talks about. From cotton balls turning Harry Belafonte into a Godfather parody, to a baseball legend who vanished without a trace, this film's real story is stranger than the movie itself. I've got 15 wild reveals coming that will change how you watch Uptown Saturday Night, and one jaw-dropping bonus fact at the end that almost nobody knows about. So speed up with me, because the list starts now. Number 1. Cotton Cheek's Godfather parody. Harry Belafonte didn't just play a gangster in this movie, he built an entire disguise out of stuff from a medicine cabinet. Here's where it gets interesting. Before filming his character, Geechie Dan in 1973, Belafonte stuffed cotton balls into his cheeks to create heavy, puffy jowls, then practiced a raspy, whispery voice until he nailed an impression of Marlon Brando's Don Vito Corleone, a role that had hit theaters barely 2 years earlier. He copied more than the voice, too. He mimicked the thoughtful chin stroking and the slow, threatening cadence that made Brando's mob boss so unforgettable. But here's the twist. While Corleone commanded fear, Belafonte's Geechie Dan came off as bumbling and constantly outmatched, and that gap between the menacing look and the clumsy reality is exactly what made audiences howl. Reports from the era even claim Brando himself eventually watched the parody and burst out laughing, proving the ultimate tribute is when the original doesn't mind being mocked. A cotton-stuffed disguise became one of the most quietly genius comedic bits of the decade. Number 2. The baseball legend who vanished. Imagine finding out one of the greatest athletes in American history was supposed to be in this movie, and then just wasn't. In October of 1973, Hollywood Reporter announced that baseball icon Hank Aaron had signed on for a role in Uptown Saturday Night. This was massive news. Aaron was months away from breaking Babe Ruth's all-time home run record and was already a civil rights symbol who had endured death threats chasing that milestone. Casting him in an uplifting black comedy felt like the perfect crossover moment. But wait, there's more. When the film hit theaters in June of 1974, Aaron was nowhere to be found. No explanation, no deleted scene rumor, nothing on record about what his role was even supposed to be. And this wasn't a small, low-budget production trying to dodge extra cast costs, since the film already featured plenty of other celebrity cameos. Whatever happened between that October announcement and the final cut remains one of this movie's strangest unsolved mysteries to this day. If you are enjoying this, take 2 seconds and leave a like. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. That support really motivates my work and helps a lot with bringing more content. Number 3. Richard Pryor's stolen lead role. The lead duo that made Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby a legendary pairing was never supposed to belong to them. Now check this out. Screenwriter Richard Wesley originally wrote the 2 starring roles specifically for Richard Pryor and Redd Foxx, 2 of the boldest comedic voices of the era. It made total sense on paper, since both men had already proven they could carry dramatic weight alongside comedy, with Pryor appearing in Lady Sings the Blues and Foxx building his name through legendary nightclub performances. Then studio executives stepped in and decided Pryor and Foxx weren't big enough box office draws to anchor a major film, a call that looks almost absurd in hindsight considering Fox's show Sanford & Son was pulling 20 million viewers a week on television at the time. Instead of the lead, Pryor was handed a single scene as a supposedly skilled private investigator who turns out to be anything but competent. He still stole the show in that one scene, and critics singled him out as one of the film's highlights, proving the studio's gamble against him was a mistake from the start. Number 4. The dance legend hidden in plain sight. Buried among the gangsters and comic side characters of this film was one of the most accomplished performers in entertainment history, and almost nobody watching in 1974 had any idea. Harold Nicholas, who played the small role of Little Seymour, was actually one half of the Nicholas brothers, a tap-dancing duo still considered by choreographers today to be among the greatest performers who ever lived. Since the 1930s, the Nicholas brothers had dazzled crowds with gravity-defying leaps and splits in films like Stormy Weather, and their staircase dance sequence is still studied by professionals as one of the most athletic routines ever filmed. By the time Harold appeared in Uptown Saturday Night in his early 50s, he'd already performed for presidents and royalty across the globe. But here's the thing, his role required zero dancing. He played a tough, diminutive gangster, standing beside his towering bodyguard, delivering every line completely straight with no wink to the camera and no hint of his legendary past. Audiences unaware of his career simply saw another actor in a bit part, never suspecting they were watching one of the 20th century's greatest physical performers. Number 5. The Mountains That Shouldn't Exist. The climactic car chase in this film sends its heroes racing through steep, winding mountain roads with dramatic canyon drops. And there's one glaring problem. This whole story is set in Chicago. Characters mention the city by name throughout, and the lead character even works at a Chicago steel mill. But Chicago sits in one of the flattest regions in the entire country, shaped by ancient glaciers that left the terrain so level the city's highest natural point barely clears 600 feet. There are no cliffside mountain roads anywhere near it. Here's where it gets interesting. Production records show the film was actually shot across MGM and Paramount lots, along with various Los Angeles locations, which explains exactly where those mountains came from. The filmmakers apparently decided an exciting chase mattered more than geography, so they used whatever dramatic scenery was near their California sets instead of building something that made sense for a flat Midwestern city. For anyone who actually knows Chicago, it's an unintentionally hilarious continuity blunder, hiding in plain sight. Number 6. The Character with Two Different Names. Watch the opening credits closely and you'll catch something the editors apparently missed. At the start of the film, Harry Belafonte's gangster character gets special billing under the name Geechie Dan. Full stop, nothing more. But here's the twist. By the closing credits, the exact same character is suddenly listed as Geechie Dan Beaufort, with a last name that was never spoken once during the entire film and never appeared anywhere in the opening titles. This isn't some forgettable extra who might have slipped through the cracks. This is one of the film's biggest supporting roles, played by a major star who received a featured and credit, the kind of billing that usually gets triple-checked by multiple people before release. No studio memo, interview, or production note has ever explained the discrepancy. Was it a last-minute script change nobody bothered to sync between the two credit sequences? Or just a simple clerical slip that stuck around for 50 years? Either way, it's a small mystery that's been hiding in plain sight since 1974. Number 7. Flip Wilson's secret film debut. By 1974, Flip Wilson was already one of the biggest names on American television, thanks to the massive success of his own variety show and characters like Geraldine, whose catchphrase became a national punchline. But here's what most people never realized watching this movie. It was Wilson's very first film role in his entire career. Despite years of dominating the small screen, he had never once appeared on the big screen before playing the Reverend in this cast. And now for the wild part. Rather than leaning into the loud, flamboyant energy that made him famous, Wilson dialed it back for a more subdued, naturalistic performance, proving he could adapt his comedic instincts from broad television variety to grounded film acting almost overnight. Stepping into an ensemble that already included Poitier, Cosby, Belafonte, and Pryor made his quiet debut even more significant since it showed a television star willing to blend in rather than steal the spotlight, and it worked. Number 8. Brando's surprising reaction. Here's one of the most delightful behind-the-scenes stories connected to this film, and it involves the very actor being mocked. According to reports from the era, Marlon Brando eventually watched Harry Belafonte's cotton-cheeked parody of his own Don Vito Corleone, complete with the exaggerated whisper and stuffed jowls. And instead of getting offended, Brando reportedly laughed out loud. This matters more than it sounds like on the surface. Brando was famously protective of his craft and known for taking his work extremely seriously. So a genuine laugh from him was as close to a stamp of approval as Hollywood parody could get. It also speaks volumes about the quality of Belafonte's performance, since a sloppy or mean-spirited imitation likely wouldn't have earned the same reaction from the man being impersonated. Brando's laughter confirmed the tribute landed exactly as intended, affectionate, sharp, and funny enough that even the original Godfather himself couldn't resist smiling at it. Before we keep going, subscribe if you haven't yet. Drop a comment telling me which movie or show you want me to cover next with strange behind-the-scenes facts. I read every single one. Number 9. The failed TV spin-off nobody remembers. Once this film became a box office hit, NBC wanted a piece of that magic for television, so they commissioned a sitcom pilot based directly on it. But here's the thing, almost nobody remembers this ever happened. The network brought in Cleavon Little, fresh off Blazing Saddles, to take over the role Sidney Poitier made famous, while singer and actor Adam Wade stepped into Bill Cosby's part. The pilot tried to recreate that buddy comedy chemistry, but adapting a story built around one specific stolen lottery ticket heist into an ongoing weekly series proved far harder than expected. NBC ultimately passed on turning it into a full show. Instead of vanishing forever, the failed pilot got a strange second life when the network aired it in the summer of 1979 as part of a special showcase built specifically to burn off pilots that never got picked up. Most people who caught that single broadcast had no idea they were watching a piece of forgotten television history. It remains a footnote so obscure that even devoted fans of the original film rarely stumble across it. Number 10. The Studio Merry-Go-Round. Making this film required navigating one of the messiest logistical arrangements of the early 70s. When the project entered development in 1973, Variety reported that National General Pictures would handle distribution. But wait, there's more. By the time the film actually reached theaters in June of 1974, Warner Brothers had taken over distribution entirely, with zero public explanation for why the original deal collapsed. Filming locations bounced around just as much. Primary production happened at MGM Studios, but additional scenes required moving the entire cast and crew to Paramount. And beyond that, more shooting took place across scattered Los Angeles locations for exterior shots. Pre-production even included initial filming in actual Chicago to capture authentic establishing shots before the bulk of the movie moved to California sets. This multi-studio juggling act was unusual for the era, when most films stayed put at a single facility to control costs and keep things simple. Somehow this scattered approach still landed on schedule and within budget. Number 11. 3 studios fighting over ownership. The official copyright record for this film reveals a business arrangement far messier than most audiences would ever guess. Now check this out. The legal ownership was officially split 3 ways between Verdon Productions, First Artist Production Company, and Warner Brothers, meaning no single studio could claim full control over the finished movie. That kind of 3-way split was extremely rare for Hollywood in that era, when most films belonged outright to one studio or, at most, a 2-way partnership. Verdon Productions was likely Sidney Poitier's own company, giving him creative control as both director and star. First Artist was even more unusual, a genuinely revolutionary venture formed by major stars including Poitier, Paul Newman, Barbra Streisand, and Steve McQueen, all banding together to seize more creative freedom than traditional studio contracts allowed. Warner Brothers brought the marketing muscle and nationwide distribution network needed for commercial success, but as just one of 3 equal partners rather than the sole owner, the power stayed unusually balanced in favor of the creative team. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes structure most audiences never think about, yet it shaped who really controlled the film's fate. Number 12. The box office numbers. Nobody expected this film was made on a modest budget of $2.5 million. Reasonable for a comedy at the time, but far from a studio's biggest bet. But here's where it gets interesting. When it opened in June of 1974, audiences responded so strongly that box office earnings climbed to $7.4 million domestically, nearly tripling the original investment and turning the project into a genuine commercial success. That kind of return proved something Hollywood had been reluctant to admit, that there was real demand for well-made comedies featuring talented black performers in positive, non-stereotypical roles. Even more impressive was the speed of it all. Just 3 months after release, Sin Chaskinskats Beus, this film had climbed all the way to number 3 on the year's list of top 50 highest-grossing movies, beating out major studio releases with far bigger marketing budgets. That success convinced Warner Brothers there was serious money in this formula, directly leading to 2 sequels, Let's Do It Again in 1975 and A Piece of the Action in 1977, both reuniting Poitier and Cosby. Number 13. One person doing 2 jobs. Among the more unusual production credits on this film was Pembroke J. Herring, whose on-screen billing read as both associate producer and film editor, a combination that was extremely rare in Hollywood filmmaking during the 1970s. Here's where it gets interesting. As associate producer, Herring would have handled the logistical and financial side of production, coordinating schedules, managing budgets, and solving the countless practical problems that come up during filming, a job requiring sharp business instincts. At the same time, as film editor, he was responsible for physically assembling the entire movie from thousands of feet of raw celluloid footage, cutting and splicing by hand while making crucial calls about pacing and rhythm that could make or break the finished product. These two roles typically demanded completely different skill sets and full-time attention during entirely different phases of a shoot. Herring somehow managed both simultaneously, straddling the business side and the creative side of the same production, a rare feat that speaks to just how versatile some behind-the-scenes talent had to be back then, wearing two very different hats on the same production without ever dropping either one. Quick reminder to subscribe if you are enjoying these revelations. And tell me in the comments, do you know any strange fact about this movie that I didn't mention? Let's build the list together. Number 14, 20 years, stuck in development hell. In 2002, Will Smith and his production company, Overbrook Entertainment, bought the remake rights to this entire film trilogy, hoping to bring it into the modern era. What seemed like a simple project became one of Hollywood's longest-running development nightmares. Smith originally wanted to star alongside Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, recreating that same buddy comedy trio energy for a new generation, and Warner Brothers even agreed to distribute it early on. But here's the thing, the remake hit obstacle after obstacle, with endless script rewrites that never satisfied producers and a revolving door of directors who signed on only to walk away before filming ever started. By 2012, the project had shifted again, bringing in director Adam McKay with a new script and pairing Smith with Denzel Washington instead of the original comedy trio idea. That version also stalled. By 2018, Kevin Hart was attached to star with Malcolm D. Lee directing. More than 20 years later, this remake still hasn't shot a single frame, making it one of the longest-running stuck projects in modern Hollywood. Almost at the end, and the best is still coming. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and drop your city or country in the comments. I want to see how far this video is reaching. Number 15, National Film Preservation Honors. 50 years after audiences first laughed at cotton-stuffed cheeks and a botched lottery ticket scheme, this film received one of the highest honors any American movie can receive. In 2024, the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry. That places this scrappy 70s comedy alongside Citizen Kane, Casablanca, and The Wizard of Oz as a film deemed worthy of permanent preservation for future generations. The National Film Registry was established by Congress back in 1988 specifically to protect culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant American films from deterioration and loss, and only up to 25 films get selected each year out of the entire history of American cinema. The official citation recognized this movie's cultural and historical significance, validating its role in providing positive, joyful representation of Black characters and performers during an era when Hollywood was still leaning heavily on stereotypes. The timing lands exactly 50 years after the original release, a perfect symmetry proving that a movie once dismissed as light entertainment has quietly become a permanent piece of American film history. And those were 15 strange facts about Uptown Saturday Night. This film mattered more than most people give it credit for, blending pure comedy with real cultural weight at a time Hollywood desperately needed both. If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe, and comment which fact surprised you the most. And don't forget to suggest another movie that deserves a list of strange facts. See you in the next video.